Now, I have 3 dogs, not by choice, but I have 3 dogs. And the first one I got is a Greyhound Marvin. I had waited years to get an X-Racing Greyhound. Years. And then when I finally applied, I waited months to have a dog become available for me to adopt. So I knew that no matter what, I was going to take this dog. I didn't care about anything, just that our personalities would be good for each other. And come to find out, multiple people looked at Marvin and turned him away because they wanted a fawn or brindle greyhound. They didn't want a dark greyhound. He also was very large for a greyhound. He's 85 pounds. Typically, a male is not that much. They're around 60 pounds. So he was a big boy. And when I was in the office waiting for them to bring him in, right, you get a little bit nervous because, it's love at first sight is what you hope, right? And he runs into that office and he jumps on me and he gives me a kiss. Now, he also doesn't show a lot of affection, so this was a lot for him at that time. And instantly, I knew I'm going to leave with this dog, right? And the rest was history, obviously, because we left together. I've had him for 6 years now, right? And most greyhounds are kennel trained, and kennels are kind of like their safe havens. But once Marv got a little taste of not having to be in one, right? A little taste of what a couch felt like, he hated it ever since. I would try to kennel him when I would leave, and he would bust out, right? I would lock him in with locks, okay, like carabiners. I would zip tie that kennel shut so he could not get out, and he got out every single time. I don't know how, but he got out every single time. So I just stopped trying. I thought this is a lost cause. But when he wasn't kenneled, he would get so anxious that when I left, he would poop in my living room. And so I turned to the vet for help, and I said, "What do I do?" And his response was, "Marvin loves you too much." So my first reaction was, well, is that really a bad thing, right? Having a dog love you too much? And then I asked, how do I make him love me less? Right? And the vet said there is absolutely nothing you can do to make him love you less. He just loves you a lot. But you see, Marvin was lost when I was gone. And he would howl a sad howl. He would stare out the window watching me leave. He would run to the door when I returned, jumping up and down, and then he would get the zoomies in the backyard. When I came back home and was with him, a piece of him was put back together. He was found. He didn't care why I left. He didn't necessarily care or know how long I was gone, but he was just so happy that I came back. And now the same is true for the rest of our pack. So that's Lucy, our dachshund. She really was not my choice. She just got thrown into our hands. And then again, our lab mix. They have this unconditional love for me and my husband, Edward. And I share photos of them with Flora because even our lab mix right here, who is scared of her, or if she reaches out her hand, he will run away or dramatically fall off of the couch to get away from her hand, right? Even though he's scared of her, he still loves and protects her because they have this unconditional love for us. And when we return home from an outing, each dog greets Flora in her car seat. And each morning when she wakes up, each dog comes to her room to greet her after not seeing her since bedtime. Which isn't that true for the love of God? God is so longing and waiting for us to be in the kingdom, that when we ourselves go astray or find ourselves lost, that God too is lost without us. We are God's children, and when God's creation is hurting, lonely, lost, or broken, God feels that too. So when we decide that we need God and return back to God, God shows us love. And since God lives in the kingdom, God doesn't care what our excuse is. God just cares that we are back and that we can be restored in our home. Because God loves us fiercely, vulnerably, and courageously and unendingly. Whether we have wasted opportunity after opportunity or have been quietly working away faithfully and wondering when we will be noticed, God loves us. Whether we have welcomed others who are down and out or have judged others for not measuring up, God loves us. And whether we think this news is the best in the world or we barely notice it, yet God still loves us. Whether we're in church reluctantly or with joy, whether we have a lifelong relationship with God, have just come to know God, or even aren't sure if God really exists, God loves us truly, madly, and deeply. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem fair or right, especially to the older son. It seems foolish, reckless, extravagant, and yet that is the unconditional love that God continually gives us, because parts of God are missing when we turn away from God, when we leave to try and make it our own. So God's kingdom, God's economy may sound crazy, like total nonsense, but to those who have been down and out, to those who have been lost, to those who have been dead, and even in this parable, this isn't the real world, but it's the only one that really matters. The one that we can be welcomed into no matter how far we go away from it, because God is waiting for those parts of God that are lost, waiting for the piece that has gone missing to return so both can be found. And when we are found, we have to celebrate and rejoice.